Michelle Prince, founder and CEO of Performance Publishing Group, making a difference one story at a time. We'll be shining the light on successful founders, entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders that are getting results and making a difference. We'll talk about how they built their businesses, are creating movements, and leveraging the power of authority in their own lives. Be sure to stick around to the end of the show, and we'll reveal how you can be our next guest. Let's get started. Hey everybody, it's Michelle Prince with the Power of Authority Spotlight, where we shine the light on incredible people, authors, leaders, founders, people that are doing amazing things. They're making a difference and they're sharing their story. Today's episode is brought to you by Performance Publishing. If you've ever thought about writing a book, now is the time because everybody has a story. But when we get our stories out of our head onto paper, that's where more people can benefit from what you know personally or professionally. If you're not sure, go grab a free strategy call at performancepublishinggroup.com. That's performancepublishinggroup.com. Well, I cannot wait to introduce you to our guest today. Kathryn Pistoresi is just such an amazing woman that I've had the privilege of knowing for many years now. She's a lifestyle coach, fitness therapist, certified health coach, and she offers workshops designed to improve communication skills, health, fitness, and functionality through life. She has a story, and I cannot wait to dive in. She talks about it in her newest book, 20 Minutes to Live, Discovering Miracles, Perseverance, and the Power of Prayer. She was born in Texas. She's married, a mother of 3, stepmother to 2, and grandmother of 12. You don't look old enough to have 12 grandchildren, Kathy. Anyway, she's learned firsthand about chronic pain and dysfunction in 2005 after a car accident. She believes that being disabled with a hip injury for 3.5 years has helped her ability to understand her clients' needs on a much more personal and unique level. She uses the most innovative techniques and creates fun, energizing routines, and believes that a strong, confident, productive body is your most valuable asset. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to see you. Like we were saying before we started, it's you and I first met a long time ago through our mutual dear friend, Howard Partridge, at one of his events. And we were trying to figure out the exact date, but we think it was around like 2012, maybe 2013.
It was after that. So it had to be probably 13 or 14.
Okay. But still a long time ago. That's, 10 years ago. So
yeah.
And I'm excited to dig in because I love your story. I remember the first time we talked about it and just knowing what you have gone through. And, as you know, I believe that we all have a story, and sometimes our story isn't all great. And sometimes it's the ups and downs, but the thread within your entire story is God's faithfulness to you, to your family. And so I want to talk about that. So let's back it up and let's talk about what happened back in, well, let's start back as early as you want. Give us a little bit of the backstory.
Wow. So the backstory was all set up to help me survive and to go forward in life and share the story. I was a child. My mom was a nurse, and she had a lot of headaches and a lot of health problems. And I became her caretaker when it came to massaging her neck and just helping her get through it. I had a passion way back then for helping people. And so I started out with my mom, and that she was a nurse. So I wanted to be a nurse. So I became a nurse and decided one patient at a time I wanted to help. And the politics of the hospital and everything else, I lost my desire to be a nurse, and I moved on because I was a gymnast. And as a gymnast, I was moving my body and doing what I love, but I also was helping the younger ones get their bodies into gymnastics. And it was very much a love for coaching, a love for inspiring. And I realized my passion way back then. And as the time went, my parents of the gymnasts wanted me to train them. So I moved from children to adults. And then I moved from adults into corporate fitness, way back when corporate fitness had not even begun.
Right.
And that was a fun experience. It expanded my business. I started out with 15 employees with this corporation and ended up 7 years later with 150 employees. So, running a business through the gym that we had in the building,
Mm.
also running my own business while we had dead time,
Mm.
time that the people in the building in the business were not working out. I could use my own clients. And so, anyway, after that, I thought, I just need to be involved in community.
Yeah.
And that also would bring business. But my business was growing so fast. And I had a lot of pride and a lot of ego.
Mm.
And I wanted to be the best and I wanted to be known and all of those things that everybody in business wants.
Mhm.
And well, frankly, I was full of myself.
Yeah.
And I had a strong business. I got involved in all the community things and I got into a big leads group
Mhm.
and just learned everything I could learn. I was a speaker for a Bakersfield Women's Business Conference and I spoke on fitness and health.
Wow.
And so my journey began way back then. And I worked 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
And we had no time for friends. We didn't have any time. I've really had no time for anything. I would come home in the evening. My husband would have, dinner ready. And he just accepted me for who I was.
Mm.
And I started praying for a group of women and men that we could be friends with, we could do life with,
Yes.
that was a bigger purpose. I really wanted people that were God centered.
Mhm.
And so we started praying and we were invited into a small group. And this small group, way back when, 20 years ago, ended up not being a small group. We started with 6 couples
Uh-huh.
and we grew to probably over 50 couples.
Oh my goodness, that's huge.
Yes, it was huge. And the leader of this group had an open door policy. So anybody and everybody could come. But that began our journey of learning how to have a personal relationship with Jesus.
Mhm.
I was a Christian from young. I never missed a Sunday for 18 years, but never learned what a personal relationship was with Jesus.
Mm.
And so that just opened up every door imaginable. And we did community service and we got together every week and we poured into each other.
Wow.
And it was beautiful. And then guess what? I had an asthma attack, and that turned into pneumonia, and that turned into sepsis, and then they diagnosed me with ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome, and that was in 2012.
Mhm.
And here we are today.
Wow. Well, first of all, there's so much to unpack with what you were talking about. And I want to start with something that you said about, when your business was strong and there was a lot of ego, because I think there's a lot of, I'm sure people that are business owners listening, and and you working 12 hours a day. And I think that is something people don't talk about as much as they should. And how you can get pulled in to the illusion in a way that you really can't do
Hmm.
it all. And,
Hmm.
and I can so relate as a business owner. I mean, there's plenty of times that I have those long days too. And I think, gosh, there's not a lot of margin here for anything else. But
Hmm.
that's not healthy, right? It's not
No, it
yeah.
isn't healthy. But I think that door had to be slammed shut because I was on such a treadmill and it was just a domino effect. It was one client, the next client, the next client, and I couldn't say no.
Right.
Each client was either an athlete or a mom or
Mm.
a dad in business, or it was someone disabled with Parkinson's or MSA or myotonic dystrophy. And that was what I love is
You
working
you
with
were helping
people.
them. Right, you were helping them.
Yes.
Mhm.
nurturing and inspiring, and I had a love for the disabled, and in gymnastics, I even taught adult disabled individuals.
Mhm.
And so that taught me so much because
Mhm.
I was good at seeing outside the box
Right.
and evaluating people, body and emotions and spirit,
Yes.
so I was able to pour into them and nurture them and teach them, but it just got out of hand when you think about working 12 hours a day. And I loved it. I had passion for
I
it.
know.
And my purpose, though, I always believed God brought me clients, the
Mhm.
right clients that He wanted me to pour into.
Mm.
But eventually, it gets so big and so out of whack because your priorities are not in place.
Yeah.
And my priorities were to be God's disciple.
Yeah.
My priority was to have my life balance, but it was not in balance.
Well,
And because I'm such a strong, driven person,
yeah.
it I had to be something had to happen to get me to understand what the real purpose is.
Yeah, and I love the, getting involved and learning more about Jesus, but as much as I hate the results of some of your story, and I don't believe God makes bad things happen. I don't, but
I don't either.
I do believe that he allows things to give us potential
Right?
lessons or a nudge or something. And so let's talk more
Hmm.
about that because so the book that you wrote is, 20 Minutes to Live, a story of faith and triumph. How did you come up with that title? And tell us more about the backstory of the title.
Well, I came up with that title because that 20 minutes to live was a significant thing that happened to me in the hospital. And while I was in a coma, a nurse that was my night nurse, her name is Kelly, and she came in the room. I literally had 20 minutes to live. The doctors had told my husband, and I was at a really bad spot. And so the nurse came over and she started talking in my ear. She said, Kathy, you have 20 minutes to live. You have to make a decision or you're going to die. You
Mm.
have 20 minutes to live. And she kept repeating this. And I heard her in my coma. I heard her. And I'm yelling, no, I don't want to die. And she just kept talking to me. And I was yelling. Finally, I said, Jesus, where are you? And as I looked to my right, there he is
Mm.
beside the bed, and his arms outreached. And he picks me up and holds me in his arms and just pets me and just calms me. And I am begging. I want to stay. I want more time with my husband. I want to see my grandkids grow up. I'll do anything. And I'm begging and borrowing. And he's just calmly petting me. And he just tells me it's going to be okay. You're going to stay. You're going to be fine. I
Mm.
love you. And I just remember thinking, this feels so amazing.
Mhm.
And I just started relaxing and I started just looking at his eyes and just thinking, oh my gosh, I am his special child. I get to stay. And he laid me back in the bed and I turned the corner that night.
Wow.
That 20 minutes to live turned out to be way more. And I turned the corner that night. And they couldn't believe it. The doctors couldn't believe it. The nurses couldn't believe it. Nobody knew that anything about me hearing her
Wow.
until months later because I had a trach and I couldn't talk. And I kept thinking one day, is this a dream or is this really true that I'm going to be okay? And one night, Ken was sitting beside me and I had gotten my trach out. And if he put his finger over the hole of the Passamere valve, I could whisper.
Mm.
I said, "Did a nurse talk in my ear?" And he said, "Oh, baby, everybody's talked in your ear."
Mm.
And I said, "No, she said this word for word." And he was sitting in the corner of the room watching her say this to me. And so I was confirmed at that point that I was going to be fine. I was going to have to struggle. I was going to have to persevere. And, but I knew inside me that I was going to be okay.
Wow.
And that's what got me through all these years. Every hard step, just knowing that he said I was going to be fine. Fine is defined differently for everybody. But for me, it's walking and talking and spreading the love of Jesus.
Hmm. Absolutely. I mean, and anyone who does not know the story to look at you would never ever have guessed, everything that you've been through. But
God is good.
I love rehearing it. I mean, I've heard the story before. It's in your book too, but it still makes me tear up. It's just
Mhm.
amazing.
So that's how I got the 20 minutes to live. However, it was at your book bound, and there was a speaker you had, Michelle Villalobos,
Oh goodness,
and
yes.
yes, and she asked me to have lunch that day with her.
Uh-huh.
And we sat in the little cafe and we sat across from each other. And it was right after I had stood on stage and told my story. And she goes, "I have a title for your book."
Mm-hmm.
Now, I already had it written down.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, "It's got to be 20 minutes to live."
Oh.
And so together, I mean, like, wow, how did she know that?
Uh-huh.
But together, she just put things in place for me. She said, "It needs to be this. I'm not sure about the subtitle, but it needs to be about perseverance and da 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 da."
And you're
And so I jotted it down, and I've kind of had it in my head all along.
Mhm.
And then I don't know, it was 2016 or 17, and I thought, okay, I'm going to finish this book. And I had some photos done. I had the cover designed, and and then when you and I signed a contract last March, I already kind of had that in my head, but working with your editors and working with what they thought and what I thought, we put it all together. So it's still 20 minutes to live.
Huh?
It's still about perseverance. It's still about power of miracles and prayer, because all those people, hundreds and hundreds of people praying for us. We've
Mhm.
been in this community. Ken's been here his whole life.
Mm.
I've been here since 1983. And this whole community came forward and prayed
That's
and stood in the parking lot, hundreds of people praying multiple times. And I had no idea all this was going on. So it was beautiful to hear it all.
huh.
Was it hard to relive everything and write a book? Yes.
Mhm.
But I think that's what makes it so unique.
Yeah. Well, and I know it inspires people and it gives people, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we need. We need to hear these stories of triumph because there's somebody, all of our trauma, whatever, it could be different situations, but we're all going through something. And so to look at you and know like you had 20 minutes to live, you made a choice. I love the faith component of your story and I know you're out there, you're encouraging people. Your book is all over Bakersfield. I mean, obviously it's on Amazon and all over the internet, but it's also in your community of the people that support
Hmm.
you. And I know you're out
Yeah.
there doing speaking. Let's talk about that. So I know you love to share this message on stages. And by the way,
Yes.
listening, Kathryn is available for speaking all over the country, not just in California, but
Right.
talk a little bit about what are some of the things that you share with your audiences. Of course, your story, but what are some of the tips or things that you can share with another woman or man to encourage them?
I think to start with, they really, people really need to understand the power of community
Mm.
and how to be involved. And there are so many people out there, couples, women, men, that are doing their job. They're working their butts off. Maybe they have children, maybe they have grandchildren, but they don't have community. Maybe
Mm.
they don't go to church. Maybe they don't, maybe they have a social group, but this is my story is proof of how God planned it all before. He set things in place and he set that small group of 6 couples. And as it grew, we grew. And it just was a domino effect. And so we had a lot of people praying, a lot of people stepping up for meals for 9 months. I mean, visitors and people just doing everything they could to help us and to help our other business that Ken runs. And, he was by my side 65 days, 65 nights, never left my side. And running a business and trying to do that's very hard. So I would tell people, first and foremost, you have to look at your priorities. And I guess I took a really hard look. I had nothing else to do except lay in bed and heal.
Hmm.
But I took a really hard look at where was I in life? What was I doing? Did I really want to work again? What was my purpose? I have the passion for all of it, but what was my purpose? And I think couples, especially, they want to be included and they want probably to be involved in a social group or a Bible study group or a church group. They just don't know how.
Right.
And so if you have that desire, I had that desire, Ken had that desire as a couple. We were individually owning businesses and running them, but they're mostly business people, and clients. And we wanted a life group.
Yes.
And so we prayed for that. And when you have a group like that, you have everything you need.
Mm.
And we're all for one goal to be a disciple for Jesus.
Mm.
And learning how to have that personal relationship and growing in that is why Ken and I are where we are today. And
I,
so business, we still run business. I still work part-time, but I have more of a life balance.
mhm.
And I know that God used me. I know that he allowed all of this to happen so that I would be a better person,
Yeah.
that I would be um, leading others to know Jesus, that I would use my story that nobody could believe, even the doctors couldn't believe I was alive. And nobody could believe I overcame it all.
Mm.
Well, it's all because of Jesus. It's all because of community. It's all because of what he taught me for the last 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
So,
I absolutely love the power of community and what you're talking about there. My husband and I actually joined a similar small group, life group. Probably it's been about 8 or 9 years ago now. And just
mhm,
there is something powerful about just doing life together. It's
absolutely.
good to have work friends too. I'm not suggesting that,
Mhm.
but there's just
Oh,
something.
no, it is good to have work friends,
It's just a
and it's
different.
good to have clients as friends.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, 100%. But
yeah.
just a different agenda of coming together and learning together,
Mhm,
reading the Bible, and then also just what's going on? What do you need? How can we pray for you? And so I think that's a huge message that you have right
mhm.
there is to find your people, to find a community. And
And one more thing that really, changed me
mm,
was my ego and my pride. I learned that I had to set that all aside. I had to be humble and I had to be honest.
mm,
And boy, those first few weeks in that small group, you know, you felt like you were on the hot seat because you're telling your story and you're allowing others in and allowing others to know you in a different way.
yeah.
And that is hard. Couples need to be raw with each other instead of putting up the walls and, oh, I don't want her to know that. I don't want him to know that. That's not what God wants us to do. He wants us to be open and honest and humble so that in order to do that, we bring others towards us and towards him.
Well, you are such a bright light. I mean, you exude joy. Every time I see you, you make me smile. You're just always so, you know,
Thank you.
confident, but
I
also,
am very joyful.
yeah,
Yes.
you are, despite everything. And so I think there's a message just in that alone. So I
Mhm.
want people to get your book. So talk about how they can get your book.
Well, they can get my book by emailing me,
Mhm.
Kathy.Pistoresi@icloud.com. They can call me at 661-333-4438, or they can go to my website, which was just hacked this last week, but it will be up and running. It's KathrynPistoresi.com, and soon you'll be able to get my book on that.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's on Barnes and Noble and Amazon, and
And all
so
kinds of other retailers and also there in Vegas.
yes,
So
yes,
well, that is a huge, generous offer to give out your contact information. And so, those of you who are listening, I encourage you to reach out to Kathy for two reasons. Number one, get the book. And by the way, it is always better for the author if you go to them directly versus going to a retailer. So definitely reach out to her at Kathy.Pistoresi, which by the way is Pistoresi,
yes.
at iCloud.com or KathrynPistoresi.com, which will be available or up by the time this airs.
Soon,
Probably, yes. And take advantage of that to get the book, but then also to, who do you know, what groups do you know that could benefit from this kind of an encouraging message, whether it be a church group, a women's group, small groups, communities. This is the kind of message that I know that when it gets in front of the right people, it's really going to change their lives. So, and I know Kathy's excited to continue to do that type of speak.
yes,
So, well, thank you
yes.
so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm just so
It's so
excited.
great to visit with you again.
I know. And this book has been a long time coming, but you know what? I always say that it always happens at exactly the right time because there, for whatever reason, it wasn't ready when you and I first met. And it needed the incubation period. And so now it's out and I couldn't be more excited for you. So congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very excited about the book as well, and very excited that you taught me how to do this.
Oh, well, you did the
Thank
hard
you.
work. You're welcome. You're welcome.
It was hard work and life happens and you get lots of excuses why you're not finishing it. But when God wakes you up one morning and says, it's time, finish the book, you get on
Yes. Yes, you do.
it.
Thank you again, Kathy.
Thank you.
All
Happy
right.
Valentine's.
Happy Valentine's. And to
Thank
everybody
you.
listening, that's it for the show. And I just want to encourage you to really listen for, or to go out there, find that power of community, find people that lift you up, that encourage you, support you, but also, grab Kathy's story because I think once you know your purpose, once you know your priorities and realize that God has planned it all in advance, there is joy on the other end of that and definitely triumph and all that comes with that. So, we'll see you all next time on the Power of Authority Spotlight. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much for listening to the Power of Authority Spotlight. If you are a successful founder, entrepreneur, business owner, or leader that's getting results and making a difference, and you'd like to be on this program, please visit performancepublishinggroup.com/podcast to apply. That's performancepublishinggroup.com/podcast. Also, if you got something out of this interview, please share this episode. Just do a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on the socials. If you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag #ThePowerOfAuthoritySpotlight. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content, so make sure you don't miss any episodes by subscribing. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our websites, performancepublishinggroup.com
or michelleprince.com. And follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.